Yeah, so you can share your screen, and I guess for everyone, I'll just be introducing Kareem. So today, I'd like to welcome Kareem Mazhar. He is he's our mentor for today for the session of UX design thinking. So thank you again, Kareem, for joining us today. If you don't mind,
Thank
I'll
you.
just give the team the brief description of yourself.
Sure, go ahead.
So Kareem has started working for different startups since 2011, and he's also co-founded an e-commerce arm for ArabHardware.net, which is one of the largest tech and gaming platform in the Middle East. He's had more than 9 years of experience in customer service, customer experience, and UX. And Kareem has also developed a very good understanding of users' needs and how to translate those into more innovative solutions. Some of his most recent experiences include being the CX manager at Dubizzle. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, it is. It's
Okay.
Dubizzle, yeah.
Okay, so he's the CX manager of Dubizzle, the largest classified website in the region, and he was also the UX mentor and operations manager for Startup Bootcamp, FinTech Dubai. So if you have anything about UX and design, any question regarding that, he's the perfect person to approach. So I guess, Kareem,
Thank
I
you.
think the question is yours.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for you guys making the time for it. I'm not gonna talk about myself anymore. I think Amira did a great job. I'll just give you a brief of what we're going to talk about today. So it is a basic presentation or a basic talk about what is design thinking, why people use design thinking nowadays, and then I'll talk about something that is I really try to teach anyone who tries to be or is interested in UX, which is jobs to be done. What is a job to be done, and why is it important to understand it? And then we're just going to go through a few examples of how to actually run a user testing session and how to test your product or service on customers to be able to understand them. The three parts of the presentation is all about understanding users. So I'm gonna start by design thinking, and you can go online and you can go into Google and look for design thinking, and you're gonna find a bunch of different definitions, but it's always about finding a creative process of actually solving the problem. But when we talk about design thinking in UX, in user experience, we actually make sure that a human being is in the center of that process of thinking of the problem, right? Whether you call it users, customers, whatever you call those people, it has to be a human element in the center of the way of we think about the solution. Now, just one second, minimize this. Okay. So in design thinking, it is a way to help you understand the customers that you're building your product or service for. Try to also reduce the risk of creating something new. Try to create solutions very fast, and also at the same time learn and iterate faster. And I'm going to show you throughout the presentation how we actually do that. We have four different ways basically to get started with design thinking. And I'm going to, again, you can stop me and ask any questions. Ask me to slow down, and also just to be very honest, I talk a lot, so if you need me to stop, just let me know, okay? First thing is you need to gather insights, practicing empathy, observation, doing interviews, and we're going to go more into detail with interviews. But that's the step one of design thinking, is you need to understand what your users want, the people that you're creating for, what are their needs, what are they trying to solve, or what are they going to do with your product or service to make their lives better, right? And that is the most important part of design thinking. You start by thinking about what people are doing. Second thing is you have to build scrappy prototypes, and I put a picture there just to show people how we can start. Now, a very common mistake with startups that I worked with, startup that I worked actually and tried to mentor, is we spend a lot of time trying to build the perfect platform, the perfect app with a lot of features and making it look nice. And it takes time, effort, money, and we spend months, sometimes maybe more than a year or two building something. And then just to figure out that, okay, half of the features I actually built, people don't use anymore, or people are not using it as I expected it to be. And this is something that I tell people. Do a very scrappy prototype. This photo I put in here is a way that we actually worked at the business. The company has been alive for 10 years, but when we decided to create something new, we would start by a scrappy prototype and sit with people and basically have them tap on the piece of paper. And once they tap on that button, then I show them what should show up next, just to see if they're gonna be able to understand what we're trying to create, or do we need to change it before we even put time in designing and building and getting more people that we're going to pay time and money to actually get them to build this thing. One of the main things is whenever you have a problem, you tend to, as a human being, think of solution. How can I make this easier? Or how can I make people, I don't know, cook an egg? But we try to basically change it into a question, and I like the how might we. It's a very common practice in UX, and you basically look at. I did a user testing session, and I have figured out that people have a hard time finding the search button on my webpage. So here is one thing. I can go ahead and think, okay, how can I make this visible? But instead, I would think of how might we make searching on the website easier for our users. And then we start writing a lot of how might we's, right? Just take each one of them afterward. How might we make it easier? How might we make it interesting? How might we make it engaging? Whatever you're actually looking at, whatever the observation is. And you can, and when you're writing how might we's, don't think of solution. Do not think of, oh, if I decide to redesign this, is going to take a lot of time. The whole reason of the how might we's is you can, if you can literally think, how might we land on the moon tomorrow, or how might we move this mouse from one side to another. It can be something as big or as small. Just write them all down, and then when the time comes of thinking of solution, you're going to then put logic in place and say, okay, this is not going to happen because it's going to take us a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money. So we try to think of something else. The fourth thing that we look at here is basically research. And again, I cannot emphasize about how important this is, but you need to do a lot of research. You can come up with an idea and you say, oh my God, this is the best idea ever. I don't think anyone else has ever done this in the world. But if you actually put so much time and effort into research, you might find a couple of competitors somewhere around the globe that have the same idea and you can learn from. Now, just some examples of research. There is generative research, evaluative research, and validating research. It's just basically focus on the past, learn from what other competitors have done, or people, or your own experiences from the past. Look at what is in the market recently and what the state of your own product is in, and how we can iterate. And then look at the future also. See what people want. Try to, for example, with what's happening in COVID-19, there's a lot of different companies that have looked at their current solution and then started anticipating how is it going to look like in the future. With more people working from home, people are doing more video calls. Then a lot of the video calling companies have introduced a lot of different features to make it easier and faster and even more fun. Event companies have went virtual, and they're thinking that this is the future of events, and people will not have to travel to attend an event, but just sit somewhere and walk around a virtual location where they can actually interact with other people. So there's a lot of learning that you can feed off when you do a lot of research. And that is basically basics of design thinking. I will jump into more examples. And again, my presentation is more about examples when it comes to jobs to be done, because if you look at different meanings of jobs to be done, you're going to find a lot of different definitions that have been written by different people from, I think, 2015, 2016 until today. But in order to understand jobs to be done, we need to understand human beings. And human beings, we like to evolve, right? And I like this example because it explains exactly how we think. And a bear trying to catch food by the river may think, I wish finding fish would be better, easier, faster, right? But only us humans will actually say, okay, I don't want to fish anymore. I want to be able to eat easily. So I can transform this lagoon into a place where I can actually breed fish, and then I don't have to actually go fishing again. And this is how the human mind is built, right? We look at something, we have a situation, we try to reach a better version of ourselves. And this is exactly what's jobs to be done. If you also type jobs to be done, this is a very common screenshot that you're going to see. A lot of people use it, but basically it uses Mario as an example. It shows you that this little one over here this is your potential customer that you think is your target audience. You're selling this nice flower. This is what you think you're selling, but this is not what people are buying. People are buying what they are going to become once they actually buy your product. And if you look at big companies, and I want you to look at, I think, Apple's keynotes prior 2015, if I'm not mistaken, they used to say, this is what the new iPad can do, or this is what the new iPhone can do. But recently they started realizing this is not what people are buying. People are buying what they can do with the product. And now when they present something new, they always say, this is what you can do with our new iPad. This is what you can achieve with that new phone. Because it's what people are going to feel after buying this product and not the product itself. And another example is skateboards. And the company is selling, I don't know, carbon fiber skateboards, wheels made out of I don't know what, titanium, all of that. But what the customer is really looking into when that guy buys the skateboard or that girl buys the skateboard, this is what she's looking for. That cool photo that she's going to take while doing a trick with the skateboard, being a professional skateboarder or whatever the ultimate goal is. And when you think about, for example, logically, if we think about why people buy cars, you say a person, I buy a car because I want to go from home to work, point A to point B. That's it. This is why someone owns a car. But the reason is not that. The job to be done of buying a car is the feeling I have while I'm sitting home that I can go anywhere I want, whenever I want, without thinking of transportation. What time is the bus or what time is the metro or all of that? This is the reason why. This is the job to be done of buying a car. It is an emotional feeling. It's not something that you can actually, and it doesn't change also over time. One of my favorite quotes that basically just summarizes the job to be done is said by Charles Revon. They sell cosmetics, right? But he said, in the factory we make cosmetics, in stores we sell hope. And look at the advertising, and I actually spent quite some time to look for this one because I really love it, because in the advertising, the product they're selling is so tiny in the corner. This is actually what they're selling. This is what you're going to buy if you're interested. But what they're selling to females here, to the ladies that want to use cosmetics, is that, I don't know, fire and ice. Can you be bold? Can you use those bold colors? Do you want to be that glamorous? Like, this is the hope they're selling to their customers. They can easily take a nice photo of a product and just put it in there, but that doesn't sell as much as showing people what they can be when they actually buy that product. Now, jobs to be done is basically, as I told you, people encounter circumstances in life that require them to actually evolve or to go into try to achieve a job that is going to make them better. Again, as I said, job is an emotional struggle just to make progress. And then this is a common thing if you start reading or knowing about jobs to be done. We always use the word hire. So the customers hire your product or service. I hire a car, I hire Instagram. I hire that product in order to reach that job that I want to reach. And the job is the fundamental unit of analysis. This is what you need to focus on. I know too much examples, but this one is one of also my favorites. Is basically, I never dream of owning a drill, but I want to buy a drill because I want to have that inch in the wall. And that's what this guy who owns a company and makes drills basically said. People don't want to buy a drill, but they actually want to buy that 1/4 inch hole. Because if I find any other solution that gets me that 1/4 inch hole, I'm going to go and buy it. If there's a way to make that hole happen without a drill, an easier way, a better way, a cheaper way, I'll definitely go for it. I'm not going to go buy a drill. So in jobs to be done, it helps you understand also who are you competing with. If I am selling, and I use this milkshake example a lot, but if I am selling milkshakes, who are my competitors? And if you think on top of your head, you're going to say anyone else who sells milkshakes. But there's a real story that happened in the US, and there was a brand that used to sell milkshakes. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to increase sales like any other brand. But looking at what they can do, they went to the marketing department. They said, okay, we want to come up with ideas. They said, okay, here's an idea. Let's introduce new flavors. They went, worked in flavors, make sure that they actually taste good, test it, all of that, and then they put it out in the market. Nothing changed. They didn't make any more money. People were not buying any more milkshakes. The number was just flat. So then someone came in and said, okay, let's try to understand why are people hiring that milkshake? Why do people actually buy that milkshake? Let's take a deeper look and analyze the reason why. And then they looked and figured out the most amount of milkshakes they actually sell was surprisingly happening early in the morning, between 7 and 8 and 9 a.m., which is very surprising for a milkshake. And then they started talking to users to understand, and they figured out users who actually came in the morning to the store were looking for something to fill them up as for breakfast. We're looking for something that they can actually keep sucking on that stays throughout their commute, going to work. And at the same time, something that is not messy, something in a container that would not screw up their outfit because they're going to work. And there they figured out they're not competing with other stores. They're competing with basic breakfast items, right? They're competing with a donut or a banana or anything that someone can eat while driving. So then they decided, okay, since now we understand why people buy our milkshake, they went and just made buying a milkshake in the morning easier. So they put a vending machine outside. So if you're going to work, you're in a very tight timeline, you go ahead, you get your milkshake from outside without having to walk into the store, stand in line while other people are buying food items. You can just fill your own milkshake, pay the machine, and leave. And that's when they actually saw an increase in their sales. Now, also looking at two different sides. Those people were buying it for breakfast. But if you talk to someone else and why does he go out for a milkshake, and that was another study, and this guy said, I go out to buy a milkshake to spend more time with my daughter. And just by understanding why, we figure out the competition also is not other stores, but the other activities that this guy can do with his own daughter. They can go to the movies, they can go to the park. So basically, if this is your target audience and this is the target customer, then you're going to have to compete with how can you make the experience with his daughter while having milkshake more fun than going to the movies or more fun than going to the park. And by understanding the job to be done, you're going to understand who you're competing with, because it can be someone who's not even in the same industry that you are in. I just like this because it basically explains what we try to do with jobs to be done. and it's just to try to be support our users with their emotional struggles. And I love this button. It just says, but in all honesty, the button is just here to make you feel good. Everything is going to be auto-saved as you go. And this is how jobs to be done is all about, is try to understand the emotional struggles that your users are going through and cater for those struggles. Even if you put a save button that literally does the same thing that you're doing, but just making it visible is going to make people feel more safe while going through whatever sign-up process that they're going through. Then when it comes to the best books, if you want to understand, there is Competing Against Luck, and that's a book that talks about jobs to be done. And as I told you, you're going to find different definitions, but if you read all the books, you're going to understand that it's pretty much the same thing. My favorite book of all times is basically When Coffee and Kale Compete. And again, from the title, you can tell what is it all about, right? You will never think that a coffee brand can compete with kale, but right now people are getting healthier, right? And then having a kale juice in the morning or a green juice in the morning is something that a lot of people started doing instead of coffee. And now coffee has a competition that they never thought of. And you'll find, or at least here in Dubai, a lot of the coffee places now started introducing those healthy juices and green juices, or if you're doing this detox, they have detox packages where you can juice for 3 days and they will give you an offer on it, and they're trying to adapt. When Coffee and Kale Compete is a very easy read. It's a small book. I would recommend all of you to actually read it. If you look online for a little bit, I think you can even find a PDF copy. I'll try to find, if I have one, I can share it with you guys later. But it's basically, this guy went and spoke to multiple different people that had startups just like yourselves, and how using jobs to be done actually changed the way of them building their own product. There are examples there that people were building one thing, and then when they understood the customers, they shifted and started building something totally different. Now I'm going to talk about usability testing and basically research. It's a way of understanding your customers too. So usability testing is basically testing a product that you have to try to understand if users do know how to use it or if you have any problems. You give them specific tasks, and I'm just going to give you an example here. For example, if I want to test my new search filters on a classifieds website where people go and search for apartments, right? So I'd, for example, give them a situation, and the situation has to be somehow real. So I tell them, for example, your job has changed, it's somewhere on the other side of town, and you need to move, and then you decided to move, so you've actually started looking for an apartment. And then now I want to make sure that the user actually uses the filter. So I would put in the task what I want him to do. And I would say, okay, let's say, for example, you want to look for a 2-bedroom apartment in this specific neighborhood with this price range. By telling him that, I make sure that this user is going to go to the filters, try to filter by number of bedrooms, try to filter by price, try to filter by location. Try also, when you're giving a user a test, not to use any words. So for example, I will never use the word filter because I don't want to guide them to the filters. I want them to figure out on their own. So when I'm observing, I would actually understand if they can find easily the filters or not. We have a lot of types of usability testing, and I think I've done all of them. But comparative usability testing is basically comparing your product with a competitor product. And this can be as easy as even a design. You know, there's sometimes where we did tests where we put our homepage for 5 seconds exactly on the screen, take it down, put the competitor's homepage for 5 seconds on the screen, take it down, and then ask the users what they remember from our homepage and what do they remember from the competitor's page. and basically just tells you if your design is better, if they actually could in 5 seconds understand what your homepage says, what do you actually do, what kind of business you're in. Sometimes we test it with designs. We'll put 3 different designs of our own page and put them for X amount of seconds. Also, they're always from 3 to 5 seconds, and ask users which one do they actually like the best. And then explorative usability testing, and this is just basically trying to do the usability testings I told you about, is give them scenarios and try to make them use either a paper prototype, a prototype that your designer did in proto.io, just an interactive prototype, or even the real product if you have a ready-made product. And then you have the evaluation part, where we would use that if we have updated something, and we would look for customers that already use our product in the older version, and then we'd show them a newer version and have them interact with it, just to see, have them evaluate it for us and see if that's actually good enough for us to roll it out. We used to do it before rolling out. Some people even would do it after rolling it out. If you want to do it remotely, then you can actually launch it on your website and ask your users to give you feedback while they're actually using it. But if you ask me, I would recommend you actually to do it pre-launching, once you have a prototype of that new update ready, just to understand if it's worth it to roll out or not. And I've seen big companies fail when they roll out a change that they thought is going to make a big difference, and just it doesn't. And one of the main reasons is human beings are resistant to change, and that's also something that we're all in. If you know how to use a website, even if it's I'm not sure if any one of you used Craigslist before, but Craigslist is a classifieds website in the US. It's very famous. And if you look at it, it is horribly designed. It looks like an HTML website, doesn't have any really cool design. It's been the same for years. They never ever changed anything about Craigslist. And that's because people are used to it. And I can tell you, Craigslist, if they changed their design and became more like Dubizzle or any of the classifieds website, the new ones that came up after, they might lose a lot of customers because customers already know how to use it. But that doesn't mean you don't change. It just means that you need to change within the limits of giving yourself time for your users to adapt to the change, and then building on it, iterating, and then changing just bit by bit. I'm gonna skip that one, and then I'm just gonna talk to you about testing methods, and this is something that is gonna be beneficial for you. I've worked with a lot of startups. I had my own startup even, and it is not always feasible to do a proper usability test. And just for you to understand, when we do a proper user testing session, when we invite some of the users in, normally we'd give them something in return, either a voucher, either some money. If you cannot find users, we sometimes even hire companies. There are research companies that can do that on your behalf, and then you have to pay them to find users. So what we used to do is, wherever we're sitting somewhere with a lot of different startups in a joint office. So we do hallway usability testing. It's basically just walking out with a prototype I have in my hand and just stopping someone and asking them if they have a few minutes. And then I'll be like, okay, can you just try this one out? Go to events or tech events and just basically start chatting up people, and then ask them to try out my new app and see if they have any feedback for me. Guerrilla usability testing is also more casual than just in a business setup. So basically we go to common places, cafes, libraries, malls, anywhere where people are just hanging out, and you know that people are hanging out in cafes, so they have time. And I would do this. I would go to someone who's sitting there and ask them if they have some time to help me out with a new project I'm building. And I'd be more than happy to pay for their coffee or to buy them a coffee. And you'll be surprised. A lot of people will be very interested to actually give you a lot of feedback. And you just test it out with them. One common rule is, we say, if you test your product with 5 different users, 5 different people are going to tell you 80% of what's wrong with your application or your product. So you can go up to 10, But if you can do only 5, you're going to have a lot of insights that you can work with for a few months even. And then with the given times of COVID-19, there is remote usability testing, and that requires some tools that you can buy online, but there's a lot of them. I'll be very honest, they're not that cheap, but you can basically hire a tool and give people tasks that you can send them through email. They go in, they go through the task, the tool would record their interaction, would record everything they do, and basically you can observe it either live or it can record and then you can observe it later or have a bunch of your team observe it. I'll just take you through very basic steps of what we used to teach people who are going to conduct the usability testing. Now, number 1 rule is everyone involved in the startup should be a part of the usability test. And meaning that you can run the test, conduct it on your own, but the other team members has to be observers. They have to sit and watch what's happening, and they have to be a part of basically understanding how things go. I see a lot of startups also I worked with, and say, yeah, we're going to send our product guy. He's the product guy. He's going to do that, or the designer is going to do that. But no, everyone has to do it because everyone needs to understand what your users are going through. The developer has to see what he built and how people are interacting with what he built. The designer has to see how people interact with design. And as a business owner, you need to understand what people see when they use your product. So normally after we have a scenario written down and we know exactly what we want to test, we just go through very basic a checklist that we give to anyone who is trying to run a usability test. It's like, okay, be friendly, greet the user, tell them a bit about yourself, what you do in the company, who you are, have them tell you also what they do, all of that. Try to break the ice a little bit. Ask them if they've used your product before, if your product is live, or if they've used any of the competitor products, just to understand their experience also. And then also make sure you tell them that this is not a test. There are no right or wrong answers. You want them to basically do whatever they're going to do if they're sitting home alone and it's their first time to use that product. Also make sure that normally we record the user testing sessions. So we have a camera, a webcam with a basic software, a screen recorder if it's a laptop, a screen recorder on the phone, and just make sure you tell them, make sure they're fine with it first, and you tell them it's not going to be used anywhere in public, it's just for your own use. And then also the most important thing is ask them to speak out loud while they're going through the process. So if they actually go silent for more than a few seconds, try to actually nudge them to be like, okay, what are you looking for? What are you thinking about? And let them just to get used to telling you what their thought process is, because it also tells you more than just watching them moving the mouse or tapping buttons. Things just that you need to do is try to have a table and you're sitting across of them and not sit and look over their shoulder, because you don't want them to feel that they're actually being pressured and they're going to keep looking at you and asking you to give them an answer. Just don't answer any questions. Just tell them, I don't know, just do whatever you think you need to do, because this is how you will know if your design works or not. This is how you know if people can actually easily sign up on your platform or it is more complicated than you actually thought. Because when we build things, and I love building solutions, you just fall in love with your product and you think it's the best product in the world. And because you've been using it since day one and you've been imagining how it looks like, you can use it while even not looking. But let other people use it, and then you're going to figure out that, oh, wow, it's not as easy as I thought it would be. And then, as I told you, give them a realistic scenario that covers what you need them to test. Again, putting them in a kind of a realistic scenario puts them in a situation where actually would make them act as if it is happening for real. They're also, when you work for bigger companies that are more user research offices. We have one that just opened here in Dubai, and it's amazing. You can actually make people sit in a room that looks exactly like a living room with a TV and everything, and just make them feel as if they're home and no one is sitting with them, and it's just full of cameras, and you can observe how they actually interact with each other while eating a pizza and using the application at the same time. And you try to put them into more realistic scenarios just to see, with all the interference from other different aspects of life, how would they actually interact with what you're trying to test, and then you'll get more insights by that. And I think this is basically me giving you all the basics, and now I would be open for questions from whoever wants to ask any. Hello.
So guys, just whoever wants to ask questions, just unmute yourself and just ask away.
I have a question actually.
Sure.
Yes. Hi Kareem, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So actually we launched our platform and the last, we're Square Fund, and the last, you can say like 4 or 5 months since we launched, we're doing more than testing. So we have changed the front end design and everything more than one, depend on the customer feedback. And now we on the phase that we want to launch our marketing campaign. So do you have any kind of tools or software? Sorry, because I joined late. Maybe you mentioned that. I'm not sure. Like, okay, thank you. Bye. Okay, so if you have like, software or tools that we can track the customer when they visit our website or anything, and we can analyze their behavior. So we have like, I don't know if you, like we check more than tools, like, I don't know if you hear that, like it's called Crazy Egg.
I've never heard of it, but there are a lot of tools in the market.
Okay, what the best?
The best one again that I've used so far is Hotjar. Hotjar used to be a startup, but they're getting bigger now.
Okay.
And if you ask me what is the best, always sitting down with your customers while they're using your platform is the best. So
Yeah.
if and I actually consulted with a company that used to make those softwares where restaurants can book tables on when you call the restaurant, they actually can book the table on the screen, right? And they try to monitor how people use it. But if you get someone also in your office, especially in that kind of situation, they're very relaxed. But we told them, how about you go to the restaurant and see how they actually use it. When you're sitting there, customers walking in, and the guy has to go sit them down and come back, and then there is someone who's calling who needs to change a time, and another one who wants to actually cancel the reservation and book it tomorrow, and all of that. You will see if they can actually easily use it or not. Now, if you want something that monitor, again, I would say Hotjar. Hotjar shows you heat maps of where your customers click the most and the mouse movements.
Okay.
You can set up with very basic lines of code on specific pages what you want to record. So for example, if you want to record the login process, you put a very one line of code in your website, and then Hotjar would automatically start recording everyone who comes to actually log in or register. And you'll have a lot of recordings that you can actually watch and see. But the problem is there is no voice. You're just looking at a mouse moving on a screen. So, and that is the only downside. You're not going to understand what they're thinking of, but you get a pretty cool understanding. Okay. One part also that Hotjar has a feature that they launched last year, where you can actually trigger surveys. You can trigger a survey on the website. You can ask your customers anything, and maybe that's something I can teach you on a later stage, but there is something that is known customer effort score. And it's a very basic question. You ask a user, how easy was it for you to do a specific task? So once they log in, you ask them, how easy was it for you to log in on the website? And the answers are easy. Easy, neither, or difficult, only three simple answers.
Okay.
And you calculate the score, the percentage of people who said easy minus the percentage of people who said difficult. You get a customer effort score, but the feedback that people type is also very useful. Then if they click difficult, ask them why is it difficult, and then you'll see people giving you more feedback. Even after they successfully logged in, they might tell you something happened or there's something that they don't like, or even in some cases, they would complain about a total different page on your website that you didn't even know had a problem in it.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I have one more thing. Like for example, like now we're doing a dashboard for the user, and we will launch it inshallah by Sunday, where
Inshallah.
he can track and check everything. So and there will be more feature will be on the site itself. So if I want to make like testing for that itself, like the new update, the new feature, not the old thing, should there is kind of testing we can do before we launch it, like like
Yes.
what kind of testing?
So this is one of the things I spoke about. So is it, since you're launching on Sunday, I assume it's ready, right? I assume it's
Yes.
ready, it's designed, you've tested the functionality and everything works, right?
Mm.
You have already customers using your platform?
Yes.
Okay, that's amazing. You reach out to your customers, okay?
Okay.
Reach out to, I don't know how many you have, but as much as you can, but not too much, and ask them if someone has some time to come to the office, or you go visit them in your office, in their office,
Mm.
and we just want to test with you a new platform. Trust me, you think it's hard, but I'm telling you, uh, your users will be more than happy to actually help you
To
develop
participate
something.
in that. That's nice. Okay.
It's not only that. There is something about humans when they used to come, they would
Mm.
always say, "I am so happy. I'm going to go tell my friends that I was the one who told you about this new idea, or I helped this company design this new website." It just
Okay.
uh, you build a good customer base, and then trust me, those people will become your ambassadors. We had people that used to come every time we have something new. They would actually participate and come more than once,
Okay.
and then ask their friends to come here.
Now that actually is something I didn't think about. It's like making your customer participate on the product itself, like working with you. That's
Yes,
smart.
yes, and then let
Yeah,
them use it, write all your insights, and
before
trust
yeah
me,
we
like
launch it.
your next update, don't even build anything, and maybe because you came in late, but don't build anything without you doing the research. Do a very dirty mock-up of a prototype,
Yeah,
and then go and test it with, especially that you're already live and you have customers. You can easily target them and say, okay, I am thinking of this new feature. How can you help me just go through this design and let me know what you
mm,
think? You will know even if you need to change something before you go live. So then you will not have to do what you did. You will not have to change your design or your page more than once. You will
nice.
have all the feedback, so you would build it and maybe change just a little bit here
A
and there.
little bit here, yeah.
Mm.
Actually, that's perfect. I think I asked so many questions, but I have one thing. Google
Sure.
they announced like something new. It's called A/B testing. I don't know if you know about it. I
Yes.
so like, do you think that can help us on this stage, or maybe on the in the future for the
A/B,
A/B?
A/B testing depends on how many users do you have on your platform that log in daily or use your platform.
Actually, now the active for the last month is over 100 something. That's not much because we didn't start
Mhm.
yet the marketing campaign or everything.
Mhm.
So, but from the first time we launched until today, it's over 800, something like
Okay,
that.
that's great. Uh, I would recommend you to keep it to user testing for now. A/B testing
What
requires
huge
A/B
data?
testing requires huge numbers, right? Because
Yes,
you
yeah.
because you're testing a percentage of your users versus another percent of your user. Team A
Mm,
is Group A is looking at one design, Group B is looking at one design.
mm,
If you don't have the numbers to show you the difference in percentage
yeah.
of what's happening, you're going to have very skewed results, and maybe the results are going to make you do something that is not right.
Okay,
So A/B testing is for people like Booking.com, people who have like
okay,
thousands or millions of users. Their A/B testing is beneficial because they have the numbers to support it.
Okay, that's yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Kareem, for everything.
Anytime, anytime, anytime.
Appreciate everything.
I think we have a question from a chat. So we have Huda. She's basically asking like, can you refer us to good and reliable company for software design? So I think, Huda, I'm not sure whether you've put that on the Startup Bahrain chat or if you've had any luck, but I think one of the best things would be to also have that on the Startup Bahrain chat. And I think, Kareem, if you have anyone, I guess, that really stands out, I think that would be good to share.
I do have the good reliable company for software design. That is RBBI. They're based here in Dubai. They're into design and user testing. They can basically do everything for you, but it's not cheap. But that's something that I would like to go to software design companies. It is not cheap. I would say go for freelancers, go for someone, I'm not sure also what stage you're in, if you have the money to go for it or not. But I always recommend to startups, no, go for a freelancer, go for someone that you want to hire maybe full time, give them some equity and a decent salary, and have them actually design and build everything for you from scratch, and then they would actually belong to the product. But that depends on which stage you're in.
That sounds quite a good idea. So, anyone else have any questions?
I had a question, please.
Yeah.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Hi, Kareem. Thanks so much. That was really informative.
Thank you.
You made this one comment where you said that you never put filters or the word filter on your page. So I just wanted to ask you about that, because what we're trying to build is an online shopping platform for jewelry. And we would need to necessarily filter by the type of gold, the type of stone, and the weight or the price maybe. So I just wanted to know what you meant by that.
Yeah, I didn't say don't put it on your website. I meant when you're testing it, when you're testing your search with the user. So, for example, you're going to tell them, let's assume it's your wife's birthday and you want to buy her this piece of jewelry, and you need to buy this specific stone and this specific weight and this specific item, right? This, I'm telling him what to buy, but I will never, because we normally write the scenario on a piece of paper and give it to the user that we're testing, but I would never in the scenario write the word filter, because I know that the word filter is on the website. I don't want to guide them there. I want to see if they're going to easily understand if that's a filter or not. On our mobile app, for example, we didn't have a space to write the word filter, so it was an icon. So I wanted to understand if they will understand if this icon actually is where they need to go to put those filters or not. So I'm just saying, when you're writing the scenario down, make sure you do not use any of the words that are on your platform that would guide the user, because it might, you're the one who's going to pay for it by the end of the day, right? If they find it too easy because you had some clues in the scenario, you will think that your platform is so easy while other users are struggling with it, right? So that's exactly what I meant.
Thanks so much.
Anytime. Any more questions?
I doubt. I don't think that they're going once, twice, people.
I'm waiting. Maybe someone is shy and.
Yeah. So anyone, if you don't want to be speaking or if you're shy to speak, just put it on the chat right now, so that.
Yeah, that works too.
Yeah, so that I can just read it out in case you don't want to ask. We just have a few more minutes left before the end of the session, so.
It's fine. I have all the time. So yeah, I think. Well, anyways, here's what I'm gonna do for people. So I made this presentation especially for you guys. So there is more text than just my presentations are more visuals than text, but this one is more text, so can actually share it with you, send it to you and you can read through it to help you remember what we spoke about. I think Amir also will share with you my contacts. Feel free to reach out. I will also promise you, if I find that book, When Coffee and Kill Compete, as a PDF document that I have, I'll also share that along with the presentation. It is a very good read, especially if you're building something or you're starting a company. I'm sure that would really help you out.
All right, so whenever you send that over, Kareem, I'll make sure to send that over to the teams. So I guess no one has any other questions, but thank you again, Kareem, for taking the time, to share your experience and knowledge with the teams. And thank you everyone for attending. Once again, we've already said this in the chat and in previous session, like if you want to, continue actively working with Kareem and, have him share much more of his knowledge and experience with, that would definitely help your startup. You can always message me, or or I can send Kareem's contact so that you can reach out to him, and he's very happy to work with you. And he's been very generous that he can provide you his service as well at a very exclusive and special rate. So I really recommend you guys to jump on this opportunity, because at least you've seen him speak, so you know that he knows his stuff. So
thank you so much.
thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Kareem.
Anytime. Thank you so much. It was very nice to talk to you, and looking forward to hear from you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.